Yeah. So last week we did kind of the feel good, mood lifter, mood booster segment. This week, which is really the yang to last week's ying, we're titling it Heavy Therapy, which I love. Tone, you came up with that. Love that name. And it's really, we're moving away from like the feel good type albums. This is an extension of that, where at the end of the day, these albums kind of put you in that same space at the end. It kind of, whether it's a release or gets you in the right headspace, but it's on the heavy side. So we each came up with we'll probably do two apiece.
Can I go first?
Absolutely.
Because I feel like I've had mine jacked a couple times. So
you have. Yes.
This way, if I go first, I can't get jacked. My first one, I'm going to give you guys, we'll guess because we like to do that here.
Yep.
This band you could totally see playing the Herd Immunity Fest, first of all. Secondly, this album came out in 2001, so it's right around 20 years ago. It's in that new metal category. They are a New England band.
Reveille.
Yep. How'd you know? Nice. That was easy.
Oh wow! No, I'll give your hints credit. They were right on.
Yeah. Bleed the Sky. Bleed the Sky came out a week after 9/11, unfortunately. But this album, I listened to a ton in the early to middle 2000s, and listened to it again last night in prep for this. They're from all over Mass, Worcester, I think Chelmsford, a couple different places. They had two albums, this album and Laced, I think is the other one that came out before it, which has some tracks on it too. And then members of the band maybe went on to form Genuflect. I don't know if you guys have heard of them, but Reveille, this album was their big commercial success. They had a couple songs on the radio. What You Got was a big radio single for us that we heard a lot on the radio here. And then Inside Out, which there's a couple different versions of that. Have you guys heard? There are two different versions of that I've heard. One without Scooter from Cold and one with Scooter from Cold.
Yeah, I think one was the radio.
Yeah, the radio one I think
intended
was
for radio. Yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't on the original release of this album. They threw it on after, kind of a la Back to School for Deftones.
Yep.
Needed a radio type hit. Wanted to throw Cold in there because Cold was kind of big at the time too. So, and that's another album we'll talk about, I'm sure, down the road. But for me, big tracks, those two of them. Plastic, I think, is an awesome heavy track. It's got Stephen Richards from Taproot on it too, which is another band that was big around this time.
Awesome song.
Yeah, such a great song. And his breakdown, the breakdown where Stephen Richards is singing is awesome. It's just I listened to it last night. I'm working overnights right now a little bit, so it kept me awake. I was like, this is perfect. This is going to keep me going for the, from the 2 to 4 a.m. time. So it was fun to revisit that. They also collab. This is kind of comes full circle for us a little bit. Two of those songs, the Inside Out redo, and then the last song, Farewell Fix. Amy Allen, who dated Scott Russo for a while and had writing credits on some Unwritten Law stuff, and then they put an album out together too. Collaborated on this record. So lots of overlap with what we like, right? I mean, you don't think Unwritten Law is the same as Reveille, but she kind of had her hands in both of those records and helped, shape some of those big songs of that time. So really different, kind of cool. Loud, heavy, new metal, fits right in that new metal genre. A lot of rap rock. There's one song that the label, which was Elektra Records, censored. The first song, Unborn. There's a line in there that I think they had to, I'm not going to say it. It's just bad. And then Howard Benson produced, which another name that's come up for us in the past with Zebrahead. And so a lot of overlap for us here.
That's nerd. That's total nerd. I didn't realize that.
I didn't either until I found it.
Holy crap. Good pull, man. Reveille's like the epitome of good rap rock. There's a lot of filler out there. And the fact that they're from New England is good, that we were able to kind of have some claim to fame in the rap rock, new metal kind of scene that came up. It sucks that they broke up too, because I feel like they had a good thing going. And when you were talking about the breakdown with Stephen Richards of Taproot, that breakdown is a vibe, man. That's a great song. Super well written.
Totally.
I feel like it is a perfect backdrop to a movie scene or something. It's just super emotional. Stephen Richards from Taproot's got a really good voice. But yeah, dude, I was huge in this album. I think we were all at the show, right? The Asylum promoting this album.
I didn't go.
It was November 01.
Oh, nice. You have it
Yeah.
on the spreadsheet. Sweet.
I do.
Nice. The spreadsheet.
With-
I didn't go. I wasn't into them at the time. I knew What You Got, but I wasn't into them at the time.
Was
Okay.
that album? Was the new album out at that point?
Yeah, it did come out in September.
Oh, so yeah, okay, you're right. It was promoting that.
Oh wow. Yeah, with Dog Fashion Disco.
Yeah, Darwin's Waiting Room.
Oh, Darwin's Waiting Room. Live for the
Great
moment.
It's a great lineup.
And I forget someone else.
One Side Zero, maybe. They came too. They were around.
Yeah. Nate, what do you got on? What else you got?
I just remember that album is a front to back. So tone, good, great pull, and it's just such a solid album in every way. Guitars, vocals, totally fits that rap rock thing, but it's not corny and it's not overdone. I don't know. They have an original spin on it. I'm not really sure what it is. I think it's maybe his voice is pretty interesting. It's kind of like a weird raspy voice to kind of help complement the music soundscape to that album. But I do remember that they had broken up and then they had reunited for a one-off show.
Yep.
You said they're from Worcester?
Yep, in December of 08.
Oh, you know what I'm talking about? The one-off
I
show
do.
at the Palladium? Yeah, and did they play? I think they played that front to back, right?
They must have. They didn't have a lot to choose from. It was that or Laced, right?
Yeah, I think it was like an anniversary show or something. And I didn't make it to that show, but I really wanted to.
Me too.
And I thought that was going to be the kickstart to kind of coming back together, but no, clearly it was just a one-off, and that was that. But I agree with you. This album's killer, man. Good fucking pull for sure.
So I get a funny story. Well, not funny, but just it's funny in that it gives you context of the times. First time I ever heard Reveille was, I don't know if this was like a New England thing or Time Warner Cable thing, whatever, but there were music channels in like the 800s or whatever called Music Choice.
Yep.
Yeah.
And imagine like, how would you guys describe, like Sirius XM radio, but like it was channels for each type of
For
music.
the TV, yeah.
For the
Yep.
TV. And I'm
Yeah.
scrolling through, and it's actually how I found out about two bands. One of them was Reveille, when this was probably 1999, and Butterfly, the song off Laced, was on there.
Yep.
And you know what the next song was? 6 Feet Under, Knife Gun Axe.
Nice.
So that was like,
there's a long story for us there.
so, you know, if I think about like my death metal, progression, it started with probably Beavis and Butthead, and then continued with the likes of 6 Feet Under and whatnot. But yeah, good pull.
Can I just say something so that I can put it on the playlist?
Yep.
Yeah. So
The 6 Feet Under's they had that covers album.
Smoke on the Water.
Yeah, I could put Smoke on the Water. We could put TNT.
Yeah.
The AC/DC's TNT. If you guys hear some low grunting TNT or Smoke on the Water, it's 6 Feet Under.
That's awesome, man.
Stay for the tangents, baby.
That's what we do. No, our buddy Don, our mutual buddy Donnie, and I, and our buddy Nate, different Nate, lots of Nates and Tonys in this group. We would hang out in his basement in college a ton, and we'd listen to Reveille and my next band, which we'll get to. And
Miss those times.
Yeah, right. And it was, it was just making playlists and drinking beers and being 20, 21, drinking Jack Daniels because that's all we get our hands on. So yeah, and it was those were therapeutic times because we were a couple of the only people still kicking around home at that time, going to school at home, and there weren't a lot of people. And the winter in Maine is cold, and it's like, what are you going to do but sit in the basement and listen to metal or new metal, and let it be your therapy. So that's kind of how this fit for me as far as therapy goes, heavy therapy.
Yeah, bringing up Donnie's basement actually I just had like a literally time travel moment because I remember getting stuck in his driveway after one of those days. I think I got like a cab or something because we were drinking or whatever.
It snowed like crazy.
Yeah, the cab couldn't get out of the driveway. We were
Yep.
stuck. It was like a foot and a half of snow. It's nuts.
Yep. Yeah, we were. Yeah, that was just you, me, and Donnie that night. I remember that night. That's
Yeah.
a tangent. Yeah, it was snowing like nuts, and we were just drinking and hanging out. that's how we became friends and how we get into a lot of the similar music that we're into. So I thought about it, but I went with the album before it. So we want to segue to the Downward Spiral, which is which is, if you want to talk about their themes on the Fragile, but the entirety isn't like that. The Downward Spiral is entirely, not negative, but definitely some depressing themes and some down and dark times there for Reznor and for whoever was listening to it. So that came out in '94, again on Interscope, but was kind of a subsidiary. Nothing was the record label that Reznor brought to Interscope, and they made happen. Key tracks for me: Piggy, Ruiner, Hurt obviously is huge. March of the Pigs and Reptile is a big one. Eraser's another one too. I'd listened to it again today. I hadn't heard it front to back in a long time. Closer obviously got the radio play, as it were. That was kind of my introduction to Nine Inch Nails, was Closer. Probably similar for you guys, right? MTV, that video could only be played after 9 p.m. and they cut it, and it was censored, and it was this like taboo thing for a 10-year-old to see, or a 9-year-old to see. So I remember being at my grandmother's house, because we didn't have cable, and trying to go and find it whenever we would have to stay there for the weekend for something. I'd be like, all right, I'm going to go upstairs and watch MTV because I want to see this Nine Inch Nails video, because it's something that I'm not supposed to see at my age.
How old were you?
10. Yeah, 10, 11.
Wow.
Back when MTV played videos, right? I mean, that's the insert MTV doesn't play music joke. But it was an album that he made in the Manson family murders house. They rented the house and put a studio up in that house, Charles Manson. And it just had that dark vibe over it from the start. And, closing with Hurt, obviously not a very happy song, but a therapeutic song. Look, the cover, the Johnny Cash cover is really cool of that song too. So there are some people that found a lot of uplifting, getting through a tragedy, getting through something bad with that song. So that's probably the kind of pinnacle of this, as far as this segment goes for me, is that song. But there's some other good ones on there that are heavy, and it's kind of my first real industrial rock metal type fandom was Nine Inch Nails, and probably still one of my all-time. Talking about the Fragile before, I love that record too. So
nice, man. Yeah, true that there's a little Nine Inch Nails theme here, which is cool because it's so deep and it's so true to the core. So Trent Reznor, idol of mine, idol of ours, I guess, collectively. But yeah, I listened to this album actually after. So this was one of those situations where I checked out the Fragile and kind of went backwards and checked out this after the fact, and agree that it's another heavy record. Like that Alice in Chains thing, it's an undertaking. You have to really kind of understand that you're going to be listening to something that's pretty deep and touching some pretty heavy emotions, maybe emotions that you didn't even know you had. So that's always an interesting thing, that music can do that. I remember reading something about Trent Reznor that really touched me, which is he said that he wants to write music that changes the world. And I think that probably any band thinks that that's why they want to play music,
right?
Other than maybe getting girls or something. But he said he wanted to make music, that changed the world, like U2. He used U2 as an example. And I remember thinking, man, U2 and Nine Inch Nails are like nothing alike. They're like, if anything, the complete opposite from each other. Because U2, well, at least in some cases, U2 is very like, well, we mentioned Beautiful Day, right? It's very happy, inspiring, kind of like heavenly guitar sounds and so forth. But it shows that you can have music from two different sides of the spectrum that doesn't have to always have this golden, smiley, everything's fine outlook on life. Because if it's helping in some way, that's what it's there for. It's the hot sauce to your food, and it's the pepper. It's serving a purpose. So when I read that quote, it took me like a few years to really truly understand it. And the more I got into the music, I was like, oh wow, this is changing the world, because this is the music for that. This is like that movie that came out at the right time. This is like that painting that resembles, generation. So it really transcends time in that sense. And I think Nine Inch Nails, for that reason, and Trent Reznor as an artist really stands out because he is like the epitome of that, like industrial, sad, dark.
But he's not there anymore.
Yeah, and that's what's inspiring.
You can use this stuff, this kind of music early on, especially to get through to where he's at now, which is, seemingly, obviously he's kicked the drugs, which has been a huge thing for him over the last 15, 20 years. And, he's scoring films and winning Oscars and being a family man. And he's a very articulate guy to listen to, talk and interview. There's been a couple of really awesome interviews.
Yep.
He's an interesting cat for sure. I got a couple of fun facts about this time frame for them.
Nice.
Richard Patrick was in the band at one point, touring with him.
Filter?
From Filter,
Yeah.
yep. Right before Filter. And they had a little, falling out, and he was gone. And then Portrait of an American Family, Marilyn Manson's record, was recorded in the house. Parts of it anyway, not all of it. Parts of it were recorded in the same house as the Downward Spiral. So that fits too, right? They were similar veins. So
it's funny that both of you independently pick Nine Inch Nails, because kind of like conventional wisdom, casual listener thinks Nine Inch Nails, for whatever reason, is more of a downer, right?
Yeah.
They're more of a downer music. But if you know them, you know the songs, know the lyrics, it's almost like a roller coaster. It can bring you there, but it comes up. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So good pulls. Like I wouldn't have, and I'm probably in that camp where like I wouldn't have thought to pick them for this, but now that you think about it, it's like, yeah. No, they fit this. They totally fit this.
Last little thing, cool podcast, Sound Exploder. It's especially if you are a producer of music, he did an episode for the song The Lovers, which came out a few years back. Really cool explanation of his process and how some sounds are made, and kind of similar to our behind the intro music, not nearly as well known person as Trent Reznor is, but yeah, check that out if you're into that stuff.